The smell from apartment 213. The smell was the first thing people noticed. It drifted through the hallway of the Oxford Apartments in Milwaukee during the summer heat of 1991. Thick, sour, and impossible to describe. Tenants complained to the landlord again and again. Some said it smelled like rotten meat left in the sun. Others compared it to sewage, chemicals, or dead animals. But the man living inside apartment 213 always had an explanation. He smiled awkwardly. He spoke softly. He avoided eye contact. And every time someone asked about the smell, he shrugged. "My freezer broke," he would say. Most people believed him. Because Jeffrey Dahmer did not look like a monster. He looked ordinary. He wore glasses. He worked at a chocolate factory. He drank beer at local bars. He lived alone and rarely caused trouble. To neighbors, he seemed lonely more than dangerous. No one imagined that behind the locked blue door of apartment 213 was one of the darkest crime scenes America had ever seen. Inside were photographs, body parts, acid-filled barrels, human skulls, and evidence of murders so horrifying that even experienced police officers struggled to speak afterward. By the time the truth emerged, 17 young men and boys were dead. Some had vanished without explanation. Some had families still searching for them. Some had escaped briefly before being returned to the man who would kill them. And the most terrifying part of the story was this. Jeffrey Dahmer had almost been caught many times. But somehow, again and again, he slipped through the cracks. This is the true story of how one quiet man became one of the most infamous serial killers in American history. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. At first, he seemed like a normal child. His father, Lionel Dahmer, worked as a chemist. His mother, Joyce, struggled with emotional instability and severe anxiety. Their marriage was tense, filled with arguments, long silences, and emotional distance. Neighbors later described the Dahmer household as deeply unhappy. Jeffrey grew up in an environment where affection was rare and conflict was constant. As a child, he was shy and withdrawn. He had difficulty connecting with other children and often appeared emotionally detached. But there were signs, strange signs, that something darker was developing. When Jeffrey was still very young, he became fascinated with dead animals. According to his father, Jeffrey once asked what animal bones sounded like when struck together. Lionel, trying to encourage curiosity, showed his son how to bleach and preserve bones. What Lionel saw as harmless scientific interest slowly became obsession. Jeffrey collected roadkill. He dissected small animals. He stored bones in jars. He spent hours alone in the woods examining carcasses. At school, he was considered odd. Not violent. Not threatening. Just strange. He developed a reputation for bizarre behavior and strange jokes. Some classmates found him funny in an uncomfortable way. Others avoided him completely. But beneath the awkwardness was isolation. Jeffrey had almost no close friends. As he entered adolescence, his emotional problems deepened. He discovered alcohol at an early age. By the time he was 14, he was drinking heavily during school hours. Teachers noticed. Students noticed. But nobody truly intervened. Years later, classmates recalled seeing him carrying liquor in jackets or drinking hard alcohol before classes. He became known as a loner alcoholic before even graduating high school. At the same time, Jeffrey struggled with violent fantasies. He later admitted that he F.A. In 1978, Jeffrey Dahmer graduated from high school. Only weeks later, his life crossed a line from which there would be no return. At the time, his parents' marriage had collapsed. His mother moved away with Jeffrey's younger brother. His father temporarily lived elsewhere. Jeffrey was left alone in the family house. Completely alone. On June 18, 1978, 18-year-old Stephen Hicks was hitchhiking near the Dahmer home. Hicks had attended a concert and was trying to get home. Jeffrey offered him a ride. The two young men returned to the house together and drank beer. At first, everything appeared normal. But when Hicks prepared to leave, Jeffrey panicked. He later claimed he did not want the company to end. In that moment, a terrible decision was made. Jeffrey struck Hicks with a dumbbell, then strangled him. It was the first murder. Afterward, Jeffrey dismembered the body in the basement. He crushed bones, placed remains into garbage bags, and scattered them in nearby woods. Then he returned to ordinary life. No one suspected anything. Stephen Hicks disappeared. His family searched for answers. But for years, they had none. Jeffrey enrolled briefly at Ohio State University, but dropped out because of alcoholism. His father pressured him into joining the army. For a short time, it seemed possible that structure and discipline might help him, but Jeffrey's drinking continued. He served as a medic in Germany, but was eventually discharged because of alcohol abuse. Afterward, he drifted. He moved between relatives' homes. He drank constantly. He avoided responsibility. And all the while, dark fantasies continued building inside him. For nearly 9 years after the murder of Stephen Hicks, Jeffrey Dahmer did not kill again. But the urge never disappeared. It waited. In 1987, Jeffrey Dahmer committed his second known murder. The victim was Stephen Twomey. The two men met at a bar in Milwaukee and rented a hotel room. The next morning, Jeffrey woke up beside Twomey's dead body. He later claimed he did not remember killing him, but he remembered the blood, the bruises, and the terror of realizing what he had done. Instead of turning himself in, Jeffrey carried the body out of the hotel in a suitcase. No one stopped him. He transported the corpse to his grandmother's basement. There, he dismembered the body. That murder changed everything. After Twomey, killing became easier. The barrier was gone. Over the next several years, Jeffrey targeted mostly young men from Milwaukee's gay bars, bus stations, and shopping areas. Many victims were black. Some were immigrants. Some struggled financially. Jeffrey often offered money for photographs. He appeared harmless, quiet, awkward, almost timid. Victims followed him voluntarily because he did not fit the image of a predator. But once inside his apartment or grandmother's house, the situation changed. Jeffrey drugged drinks using sleeping pills. When victims lost consciousness, he strangled them. He later admitted that control was central to his crimes. He feared abandonment. He feared rejection. And he wanted complete possession over another person. As the murders escalated, Jeffrey's behavior became more disturbing. He photographed bodies, kept skulls, stored body parts, and attempted grotesque experiments intended to create compliant, zombie-like victims. These attempts failed. Victims died. Yet somehow he remained free. For years, Jeffrey lived with his grandmother, Catherine Dahmer. She believed her grandson was troubled but harmless. She knew he drank too much. She knew strange men visited late at night. She knew foul smells sometimes came from the basement. But she did not know the truth. Inside that house, Jeffrey murdered multiple victims. Neighbors occasionally noticed unusual odors. Jeffrey explained them away. Once again, people accepted the explanations. By the late 1980s, his crimes had intensified. One victim, Richard Guerrero, was murdered after Jeffrey lured him home with money. Another, Anthony Sears, was killed and later partially preserved. Jeffrey began keeping skulls and body parts as trophies. The apartment and basement increasingly resembled something from a nightmare. Yet outside, Jeffrey continued appearing ordinary. He worked jobs. He attended bars. He chatted casually with coworkers. Serial killers often survive because they learn to imitate normal behavior. Jeffrey Dahmer mastered that disguise. But cracks were beginning to appear. His grandmother became alarmed by the smell and strange noises. She demanded he move out. In 1990, Jeffrey moved into apartment 213 at the Oxford Apartments. The move would become catastrophic, because now he had complete privacy. No grandmother, no family, no supervision. And inside that apartment, the killings accelerated. The Oxford Apartments stood in a rough area of Milwaukee. The building was cheap, worn down, and populated mostly by working-class tenants. Jeffrey's apartment was small. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a tiny kitchen, ordinary from the outside. Inside, however, horror was quietly accumulating. Jeffrey painted the walls dark. He kept the blinds closed. Music and air conditioning often ran continuously. To neighbors, he was strange but not alarming. Some recalled him being polite. Others thought he smelled bad. A few noticed odd sounds late at night. The smell became impossible to ignore. Tenants complained repeatedly. Jeffrey blamed spoiled meat or fish. At times he claimed tropical fish had died. Management issued warnings. But no serious investigation occurred. Meanwhile, victims continued disappearing. Ernest Miller, David Thomas, Curtis Strotter, Tony Hughes, Conorak Synthesumphone, Matt Turner, Jeremiah Weinberger, Oliver Lacey, Joseph Braidhoft. Many families searched desperately. Some victims were reported missing. Some disappeared without immediate investigation. At the center of it all sat apartment 213. a place where unimaginable acts occurred only feet away from unsuspecting neighbors. Jeffrey developed increasingly disturbing rituals. He preserved skulls, stored organs in refrigerators, used acid to dispose of remains. Police later discovered photographs documenting different stages of dismemberment. Those photographs would become critical evidence. Without them, some investigators later admitted, the crimes might have been difficult to fully comprehend. Yet despite everything happening inside the apartment, Jeffrey still interacted with the outside world daily. That contradiction haunted investigators. How could someone commit such horrific crimes while appearing so ordinary? The answer, perhaps, was terrifyingly simple. Monsters do not always look monstrous. To understand the scale of the tragedy, it is important to remember something often lost in discussions about serial killers. Jeffrey Dahmer's story was not only about him. It was about the people whose lives were stolen. Each victim had dreams, families, fears, and futures. Many were young. Some were teenagers. Tony Hughes was deaf and communicated through sign language. Friends described him as gentle and artistic. Matt Turner hoped to build a better future. Oliver Lacey loved sports and family gatherings. Conorak Synthesomephone was only 14 years old. Their lives mattered. But during the late 1980s and early 1990s, many disappearances involving marginalized young men received limited attention. Some families felt ignored. Police resources were inconsistent. Media coverage was selective. Critics later argued that race, sexuality, and class influenced how aggressively cases were pursued. Those criticisms intensified after one particular incident, an incident that many believe could have stopped Jeffrey Dahmer before additional murders occurred. On May 27, 1991, 14-year-old Conorak Synthesomephone escaped from Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. Drugged, injured, and disoriented, the boy wandered naked into the street. Two women spotted him and immediately sensed danger. They called police. When officers arrived, Jeffrey Dahmer calmly approached them. He explained that Conorak was his 19-year-old boyfriend. He claimed the boy was drunk and that the situation was simply a domestic dispute. The women protested. They insisted the boy looked young. They said something felt wrong. But Jeffrey remained calm. He showed officers photographs of Conorak posing in the apartment. The images appeared to support his story. Police escorted the boy back into apartment 213. They did not investigate further. Inside the apartment were photographs of dismembered bodies. Inside the refrigerator were human remains. But the officers never searched thoroughly. Minutes after police left, Jeffrey murdered Conorak. The case later became one of the most controversial failures in modern policing. The officers involved were criticized heavily. Many believe prejudice influenced the response. Had police acted differently that night, several later victims might still be alive. That realization devastated families, and it intensified public outrage after Jeffrey's eventual arrest. On July 22, 1991, Jeffrey Dahmer encountered Tracy Edwards. That meeting would end the killing spree. Jeffrey approached Edwards near a bar and offered him money to pose for photographs. The offer sounded strange, but not necessarily dangerous. Edwards agreed. Inside apartment 213, however, the atmosphere changed quickly. Edwards later recalled a terrible smell. He noticed boxes of chemicals. He saw Jeffrey behaving nervously. Then Jeffrey handcuffed him. At one point, Jeffrey pressed a knife against Edwards and spoke about eating his heart. But unlike previous victims, Edwards remained alert. He carefully gained Jeffrey's trust. He waited for an opportunity. Hours passed. Finally, when Jeffrey's attention drifted, Edwards punched him and escaped. Still partially handcuffed, Edwards ran into the street and flagged down police officers. The officers followed Edwards back to apartment 213. Jeffrey attempted to remain calm. He claimed the handcuffs were part of a lover's argument. But when officers opened a drawer searching for the key, they discovered Polaroid photographs. The images showed dismembered human bodies. One officer reportedly said, "These are for real." In that instant, everything changed. Jeffrey tried to flee. Police restrained him. Then officers began searching the apartment. What they found stunned even veteran investigators. A severed head in the refrigerator, human skulls, preserved organs, bloodstained tools, acid barrels, and evidence connected to multiple murders. The nightmare hidden behind apartment 213 was finally exposed. After his arrest, Jeffrey Dahmer confessed in extraordinary detail. Investigators were shocked by how calmly he described the murders. He explained how he selected victims, how he drugged them, how he killed them, how he disposed of remains. Detective Patrick Kennedy later recalled the emotional toll of listening to the confessions. Jeffrey spoke in a flat, detached tone. At times, he appeared almost relieved. The confessions lasted for weeks. As investigators matched evidence to missing persons cases, the scale of the crimes became clear. 17 murders. The media exploded. News crews surrounded the apartment complex. Television networks broadcast non-stop coverage. Newspapers printed disturbing details daily. The nation became obsessed. People struggled to understand how such crimes could occur unnoticed. Psychologists debated whether Jeffrey was insane. Criminologists analyzed his childhood. Religious groups discussed evil. But for victims' families, none of those discussions changed the reality. Their loved ones were gone. And now the world knew exactly how terrible their final moments had been. Experts spent years studying Jeffrey Dahmer. What drove him? There was no single answer. Psychologists pointed to multiple factors: childhood isolation, alcoholism, severe personality disorders, obsessive fantasies, emotional detachment, fear of abandonment. Some experts argued he displayed traits associated with borderline personality disorder. Others emphasized psychopathy. Yet Jeffrey himself often described overwhelming loneliness. He claimed he killed because he did not want people to leave him. That explanation horrified many observers. Because beneath the monstrous crimes was an almost pathetic desperation for control and companionship. But loneliness alone does not create serial killers. Millions of isolated people never harm anyone. Jeffrey made choices. Repeated choices. Terrible choices. And those choices destroyed lives. One especially disturbing aspect of his crimes involved attempts to create submissive victims through crude medical experiments. Jeffrey drilled holes into victims' skulls and injected substances in hopes of rendering them permanently unconscious yet alive. The experiments failed. Victims died. Investigators later described these acts as among the most horrifying details of the case. Jeffrey's apartment reflected complete psychological collapse. The line between fantasy and reality had disappeared. Jeffrey Dahmer's trial began in 1992. The central legal question was not whether he committed the murders. He had confessed. The evidence was overwhelming. Instead, the question was whether he was legally insane. Defense attorneys argued that Jeffrey suffered from severe mental disorders and lacked control over his actions. Prosecutors disagreed. They argued that Jeffrey clearly understood right from wrong. They pointed to the careful concealment of crimes, the cleaning of evidence, the lies told to police, the attempts to avoid detection. Victims' families attended the proceedings. Some sat only feet away from the man who murdered their loved ones. Emotions often erupted in court. At one point, the sister of victim Errol Lindsay rushed toward Jeffrey in anger before being restrained. The pain in the courtroom was overwhelming. After weeks of testimony, the jury rejected the insanity defense. Jeffrey Dahmer was found legally sane. He received multiple life sentences totaling more than 900 years in prison. The trial ended, but the story did not. Because even behind bars, Jeffrey Dahmer remained one of the most infamous criminals in the world. Jeffrey Dahmer was sent to Columbia Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. At first, officials kept him isolated for safety reasons. Many inmates hated him. Some wanted revenge. Over time, however, restrictions loosened. Jeffrey reportedly became religious in prison. He was baptized. He spoke with ministers. He claimed he accepted responsibility for his crimes. Some believed his remorse was genuine. Others believed it was manipulation. Public fascination remained intense. Books were written, documentaries produced, interviews analyzed. Yet inside prison walls, Jeffrey was no celebrity. He was a target. On November 28, 1994, Jeffrey Dahmer was assigned to prison cleaning duty alongside two inmates. One of them was Christopher Scarver. At some point, Scarver attacked Jeffrey with a metal bar. Jeffrey suffered catastrophic head injuries. He died shortly afterward. He was 34 years old. Scarver later claimed that Jeffrey had shown little remorse and disturbed other inmates. The killing ended Jeffrey Dahmer's life, but it did not end the public obsession.